This episode is brought to you by CarterComics.com. It's your one-stop shop for all your comic needs, whether it be graded or raw. Carter Comics has got it all. All you gotta do is go to CarterComics.com, fill your card up with all their amazing comics. Use the discount code FREAKNET, FREAKNET. Save you 10% at checkout. Not only on their website, but also at their eBay account. And the link to eBay can be found on their homepage at CarterComics.com. Again, CarterComics.com is your one-stop shop for all comic needs. Greetings, listeners, and welcome back to another episode of this freaky show. It is the final episode of our spooky season celebration. I am your host, Travesty.
And I'm the Freak Joe.
And we'll be ending our show this year. Typically, we would have the co-host of the Babes of Lore on and everything, but they're kind of on a hiatus right now, dealing with careers. Okay. Yeah, they're dealing with careers and becoming a new mom. Well, one's a new mom, one is establishing a new career. So I do hope that they do come back. But the last couple of years, we've been wrapping this up with having them on and everything. So we're not doing that this year. Instead, what we're going to do is we're going to recap our own stuff, which is the Freaky Cemetery tour we just did in Michigan that was released over the course of October. If you guys have been fans of this Freaky show or even this Freakin' show over the course of the last 4 years, you know that Joe and I started a new adventure where we travel around different states every year and check out haunted or kind of historical cemeteries. We started obviously in Illinois in 2020, and then we hit Indiana in 2022, I believe, Wisconsin in 23, and then this year we decided to hit Michigan. So I guess before we start talking about the cemeteries we visited and our kind of experiences from what we remember, keep in mind we did do these visits in September, so this is all from memory. But for those of you who have been watching the episodes and have been subscribing to our channel and viewing the cemeteries that we went to in December, first off, I want to say thank you. It's awesome to see that the work that we put in to put out content for you guys is going noticed, or it's not going without notice. I don't know how do you say that?
It's not going unnoticed.
Thank you. Yeah. See, even Freak Joe knows how to correct me like Cartoon Joe does. We appreciate that you guys tune in, see them, and not only that, sharing comments and everything and responding to stuff. I think through this, I think there's only been maybe 1.5 negative comments. I think nice. My favorite comment was the one where it's like somebody was talking about, it was actually a video from last year's in Wisconsin talking about how it wasn't good.
Right.
That they hope that their friends who are buried in that cemetery we visited haunts us and everything, and it's fine. I mean, honestly, I don't care if it's a good comment or a bad comment. If there's comments, I like reading them because we also respond to every single one. Even if they're to say awesome job, and I just say thank you. I give responses. But a lot of them have been positive. It's like I think the only negative thing is I think Reynolds Cemetery had a little bit of traffic sound to it. And it's because we really went early in the morning. I think it's one of the busier roads, and people were probably going off to school or off to their job or anything. So thank you again to those who are subscribing to Freaknet Studios YouTube channel. If you haven't yet, go ahead and do so. Again, and as of right now, as the release of this video, all of them are released. All 12 cemeteries are now available to be viewed, and you can check those out through the entire state of Michigan. And Freak Joe and I look forward to checking out Iowa next year. So Joe, I'm just going to run through each of our cemeteries real quick, kind of talk about what they were, where they were at, something about them. And then I just want to get your kind of opinion. If you, what do you remember about the cemetery? And we'll kind of just run through them real quick. And then we will wrap this show up with our final Freaky Tale of this year. And I'm excited because we're bringing back the infamous one that we've made tradition here at this freaky show. So, the first cemetery we went to was Reynolds Cemetery. It was in Jackson, Michigan. It was known mostly for the Crouch Unsolved Murders. Jacob Crouch was buried at Reynolds Cemetery. Eunice White, who was also involved in the murder, was buried at a different cemetery along with Eunice's husband, Henry White. Family friend, Moses Polly, who was part of it, is buried at another cemetery. Susan Crouch, is the daughter of Jacob Crouch, is buried at Reynolds Cemetery. And the suspected murderer, James Foy, is actually buried, I believe, in Massachusetts. So this was the first one we went to. We walked it. We were able to kind of check out some of the unique parts of it. What about this cemetery do you remember as it pertains to Reynolds Cemetery?
Yeah. To be honest with you, not much. I remember it was it's a nice little cemetery. It is beautiful.
Yeah.
The family plot with the like iron wrought fence around it was really fascinating. We haven't seen that much of that in all of our tours so far.
No, we get a lot of the like concrete barriers.
Yeah.
And I think I can't remember I think it was Glenball Cemetery in Wisconsin. It was probably the one where like we saw a lot of those like kind of fenced in family plots, but it was like almost like the entire cemetery had their own little spots. And it was a small cemetery too.
Yeah.
But it was like 3 or 4 different spots where like it was wrought iron fenced in. Like,
yeah. You don't usually see it with just one.
No, you don't, and they don't happen that often. And one thing I learned about all of Michigan, not just Reynolds, is how well kept these cemeteries were.
Yeah, it's really impressive how much work they do to keep the cemeteries in good shape. I mean, I feel like we've seen, especially I think Indiana was probably some of the worst.
Yeah.
Where they just kind of let it fall into disrepair, or like they still mow it, but that's about it.
The one that was up on the hill next to the RV show in Indiana, that one that was so untaken care of. It was hard even for us to find it. I think it took us more
that's
time.
right.
I think it took us more time to find it than it did to actually film it. But it's because it was so like far away. It was up a hill and down in the
it was like a quarter-mile walk up the hill, and
if there wasn't a sign, you never would notice it was there.
Nope.
The one thing I did like about Reynolds too is obviously there was the church that was right next door to it. We didn't go into it, but I believe it is still currently active. It's kind of like a smaller church. For years, folks gathered to the cemetery on November 22nd to witness the supernatural appearances. Please kind of put a halt to that. So I'm curious on if people continue to do so even in 2024. Hazy ghost-like mists travel at night throughout St. John's Cemetery in Jackson, and they travel to Reynolds Cemetery. So between the two cemeteries where the families are separated and buried at. Our next trip was Forest Hill Cemetery. It was founded by a group of leading Ann Arbor businessmen. This is Ann Arbor, Michigan. So this is the one that I believe is by the college.
Yep.
And this one wasn't really a haunted one. This was kind of our first more of our historical cemetery that we kind of drove through and kind of looked at some of the more unique things. I believe this is the one that had the like the waterways where they had the mausoleums like in the back. They were right next to like the creek. I think had like the cement geese and stuff like that. One thing I noticed about this one, and a lot of like the first postmaster, coroner, justice of the peace of Ann Arbor was there. A lot of founders were there. University of Michigan, deans of students and stuff were there and everything. This is the first time I noticed stairways that had like names on them.
Yeah. Yeah. Like letting you know you're walking into a family plot or something like that. Yeah. That was an interesting thing. I forgot about that.
Yeah. And I think this is the one where there was like so many black squirrels.
Yes. Yeah. That was wild too.
Yeah. It was weird because like I think it was a few weeks ago. It could honestly be, and I could be completely wrong. I'd have to remember better, but I think the first week of October when these cemetery vlogs started coming out, Carl came up to me at work and showed me a video of a black squirrel.
Huh.
And he's like, oh, look at this. Somebody had a black squirrel in their yard. And I'm seeing like, wow, that's weird because this week when we start releasing our videos, one of the cemeteries that we went to had so many black squirrels. And that's the first time in my life I can recall ever seeing black squirrels.
Yeah. There's a surprising number around me up here.
I've never noticed them, like ever.
Yeah.
Uh,
Yeah. Usually like red or gray. I never see black one.
no,
Weird.
no. But the fact that we saw so many of them inside the one cemetery was unique. It was unique to me because it was like
Yeah.
I'd never seen this.
For sure.
Union Yadel Cemetery. It's a graveyard in Ypsilanti, Michigan. The graveyard is a final resting place of a supposed witch named Elizabeth. Shadowy figures and growls allegedly have been heard from Union Cemetery during the late hours of the night. The only growls we heard was an actual dog that was buried in the house next, or not buried, lived in the house next door to the cemetery.
Right.
The
Sorry,
setup.
I was just thinking, how'd you know it was buried?
Yeah. Well, you know.
Oh gosh, big old Balto statue or something.
um, this one, the only thing that reminded me of anything was so they were talking about a witch being buried there. Is that it was set up very similar to an Indiana cemetery we visited that had another history about witches.
Yes, that's right.
Yeah. The William Gannog Cemetery. This one's probably my favorite.
Yeah, that one was really cool.
I liked it because I mean we were able to walk around in it. It was actually larger than I expected it to be. Thank God Joe has better stamina than I do to go up the hill and check it out over there. And one of the unique things about what we started doing in Wisconsin was filming separately. So we're able to cover more of the area of the cemeteries. So it's cool, like when I'm able to go back and do the editing and putting the videos out, is I know what I filmed, but it's unique to see what Joe filmed. And I remember this one, you're talking about seeing a cat.
Yeah, well, and
And,
we don't film. You know, I don't go over and film the stuff that you already filmed, and you don't do
yeah.
the same for me. So
Mhm.
it's it is what it is. But yeah, there was at one point a black cat walked into the cemetery and just kind of ran through, and it felt like it disappeared. There was like some bushes and stuff behind the cemetery, so it probably just went over the fence and into them. But
Mhm.
yeah, it was a really weird moment, and I think there is a moment on the video where you can see it briefly appear and disappear.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's the creepiest thing that has happened to me personally on any of these tours.
Yeah. Well, and it's too is like so I don't remember a lot about the day as far as weather wise, but there were strong moments where you were getting a lot of wind.
Yeah.
And the thing is like it very well could be because you're more out in the open, or whatever, but it came and went. Like it wasn't like a consistent, like it came and went, but
Hmm.
I didn't have that problem when I was filming my end. So
Yeah.
like so that was kind of unique to me. I was like, huh, okay, because it's an aggressive wind. It goes and then just
Wild.
stops. It doesn't even fade away. So it was unique to me. This cemetery has been around since 1862. It's named after a local farmer who set aside a portion of the farmland for burials. It's closed to new burials. 350 people currently buried there. Notable members: there's over 25 members of the Ganong family. There's veterans from World War One, Two, and Mexican American War, and then Albert Ganong, a 17-year-old who died at Libby Prison in Richmond, Virginia.
Great.
Um, Elmwood Cemetery in Detroit. So this is the first Detroit cemetery. I think we did. I think like four of them, technically five. I think there's four of them that
Yeah.
were in Michigan alone. Established in 1841, it's the oldest continuously operating non-denominational cemetery in Michigan. Originally covered 42 acres until expanded to 86. In 1850, the Temple Beth El purchased 1/2 acre to establish that is now Michigan's oldest Jewish cemetery, which the next cemetery I believe after this was the Jewish one we went to, which was an unfortunate but unique cemetery. We'll talk about that in a minute. The cemetery made an appearance in the film Detroit 9000, and notable people who were buried there was Aretha, no, not Aretha Franklin. No, she was the next one. Notable people there is former Civil War general, radio broadcaster, MLB player. I'm sorry, Martha Jean Steinberg, most notably the radio broadcaster, and made a cameo in 9000. And she convinced the radio channel to cancel programming, and she did not do on-air calling for people to calm down during the riots of 1967. Um, other than it being like nice cemetery, nothing really kind of stood out to me.
No, same. This is much more historical and
yeah, exactly.
haunted. But it is a beautiful cemetery. I mean, you know, we've talked a lot in the past about how, especially in the late 19th century, it became popular for cemeteries to be designed almost as parks for people to walk around and enjoy, as well as you know, respect the dead. And I think this is a really good example of a place that's nice to walk around and nice to enjoy for recreational purposes, as well as, you know, visiting maybe some relatives or something, or you know, checking out some cool people like Martha Jean.
Yeah. Like I said, I think in Indiana's the Indianapolis cemetery really kind of opened our eyes to the expectations that cemeteries have as places people will visit, ride bikes through, and walk through, go jogging through. I mean, back in the day, people did picnics there, you know. So, cemeteries are more like park likes, and this was definitely one of those. We're still kind of establishing park like essence to it.
Yeah.
Woodlawn Cemetery is where Aretha Franklin and Rosa Parks are buried at. I think it's the first time we actually walked into a mausoleum, and we got to kind of see the final resting place of Aretha Franklin. We saw the Rosa Parks chapel that's on site there, but I think we kind of determined she was buried inside the chapel.
Yeah, I think that's what we decided because we couldn't find her grave.
Yeah, but this is also one of those really nice, huge cemeteries of Detroit.
Yeah. And this one's beautiful. I mean, if you live near here and you just need a place to like run, awesome place to do that.
It is.
Walk around, whatever. I mean, it is gorgeous.
Yeah. And we also was it Michael Jackson?
There was some kind of monument to him. Yeah.
Yeah, it's like once we first got, because at first like, oh crap, but once we realized Michael Jackson was buried, I think in Indiana. I'm not quite sure where we found out he was truly buried at, but
well, he's from Gary, so
and that's what I'm thinking. Like he's buried near Indiana, but I mean at the same time, like I mean, he could be buried in California for all I remember. Well, we know it wasn't.
Oh yeah, California.
Yeah, so we knew it wasn't in Detroit, but it's cool that they kind of had that memorial for him, like right there at the entrance of the cemetery. Also, the Dodge brothers were buried there. A couple baseball players as well. But yes, Aretha Franklin's family is entombed in the mausoleum. Machpelah Cemetery was established in 1912, founded by David Oppenheim to create a resting place for the growing Detroit Jewish community. Over 16,500 resting within a 24-acre property. So a lot of mob members buried there. A lot of people buried there. Like when you sit there and talk about 16,000 people within that acreage, it was hard to kind of imagine how that was possible until you really got there and saw how close everyone was buried.
Oh yeah, it's tight in there.
And the unfortunate thing about the cemetery is we drove it within minutes because most of it's walking only.
Yeah.
So
it's very tough to get in there and do anything. And
so if you're looking to kind of like pay tribute to the Jewish community of Detroit and you have family there, just keep in mind if you haven't been there before, it's going to be a lot of walking. And if we had more time in our trip and everything, we may have been able to do that. But unfortunately, there's a certain path you got to take, and once you get to the end, you're exiting back out into the main road. So, but still a beautiful cemetery. Like I said, like they were like almost sardine, like just kind of like put together there. One cemetery that I was really looking forward to, excited for, but kind of bummed out as soon as we got there was the Redford Cemetery. And that was the one that we had asked permission to get in because it is a private cemetery that we were looking forward to walk around because of the history I had. Unfortunately, the same day we were going was the same day they were doing landscaping and maintenance work. And if it was one or two people, we probably could have walked around and worked around them and made it work. But unfortunately, they had an entire crew of people out there spread out through the entire cemetery. So we didn't get a chance to walk it like we wanted to. So we had to kind of drive through it. So it was another kind of brief trip in Redford.
Yeah. You want to be like, why did you give us permission to do this if you're going to have the lawn crew there?
Yeah, because another thing too, like I told them what day we're gonna be there. I told them the time frame we're gonna be there. If they just would have waited maybe a half hour, or if they maybe got done a half hour early, but it is established in 1831. As Israel Bell, a Pekin Village, Michigan commissioner, gave 1 acre of land to the village for the cemetery, originally called Bell Branch Cemetery after the river, and the settlement founded in 1818. The name was changed to Redford Cemetery following the village renaming to Redford Township, also known as Pioneer Cemetery. Additional acreage was added multiple years to follow. The wrought iron fence was built in 1886. And among those buried are Israel Bell and many military veterans that served in the Revolutionary War and the War of 1812 and Civil War, both World War I and World War II. Oakwood Cemetery was in Farmington, Michigan. It was first interment. It was Mr. Green, a village cobbler, in 1825. This is the one with the giant leech tree that we still aren't quite sure if it really allowed us to roll the car like the legend states.
Yeah. It's hard to tell if, we just kind of rolled backward down the hill.
Yeah.
Because we were on a slight incline. But
yeah,
I want to believe. It was neat.
And in the moment, I'm okay with saying possibly something happened. I mean, the car did. I mean, it did exactly what it said it would, and probably because of gravity and whatever it is. But we rolled back and we stopped, and so it's one of the things that the only thing that would question me about is like, okay, first off, why did we stop?
Right.
Did we come back to going up a hill in a sense? And if that's the case, why didn't we roll forward?
That's a good question.
So it like that's the only thing that would puzzle me in the sense of like, okay, we keep rolling back, we roll back until a point where we can no longer roll downhill. So in my mind, we kind of go back up a hill a little bit ways, but we didn't even creep forward in any type of way. So maybe something happened. But anyone out there, if you guys have tried this or experienced it, let us know.
Yeah, put it in the comments.
I'm hoping to get some of these stories on that video. I haven't got any yet, but I'm really excited to see if we do. But yeah, so if you enter the west gate, drive a little ways, and you'll come across an old-looking tree with a knob that looks like the mouth of a leech. Stop your vehicle in neutral, and you'll roll back up the hill. When you reach a certain point, you'll start rolling back again. Well, we didn't roll back, so.
No, we didn't.
The gardener's grave is also there, a grave that stands to the left of the entrance. Rumor has it that if you stand near too long, the smell of death will reach you. We didn't get a chance to do that. Another paranormal event rumored to have occurred there is the sound of a woman crying at night. Some visitors say that the ground starts to shake or that dark figures follow through the forest area of the graveyard.
Yeah. So we don't go at night, so we don't know.
We don't know. Tell you what, if you make us famous and we start getting more views and downloads and start making money, yeah, we'll go at night.
Yeah.
Yeah, we just can't afford it right now. Yeah. I mean, I guess technically we could. No, we can't afford it. No. Plus, also, it's creepy.
Yeah, I can't afford a fine or a jailing.
No.
Not at this point.
Dude, we have to get crew and all new equipment that can be seen at night. But hey, if you guys, hey, just keep that in mind, why you want us to go at night, help us buy the equipment.
Yep.
Let me know. I'll send you a PayPal link that you can send me money to. I never say no to free money.
Mm-hmm.
Findlay Cemetery in Adam, Michigan. Cemetery dating back to the 18th century. Findlay Cemetery has historic grave sites dating back to the 1700s. Misty blue figure is rumored to linger around the cemetery that dates to the 1700s. This cemetery is also home to the so-called Ada Witch, a ghost who is known to tap unsuspecting visitors on the shoulder as they walk through the cemetery. I think this is the one that was surrounded by the little suburban area.
Mm-hmm.
That it looked like it was a lot of I think the older stuff was up front as they moved back, which is also kind of unique because a lot of these Michigan cemeteries that we visited were the olders in the back moving towards the roads. Mm-hmm. This one kind of seemed like the opposite. One thing I think we failed to mention that I noticed a lot more is the etchings of people and pictures of them on stones.
That's right. Yeah, that was an interesting thing.
Yeah. Um,
Seems to have been very popular.
It was. I think it happened a lot more, especially in Michigan. There's always something unique that we see in different states as we go, and I think when it comes to Michigan, it's the actual images of people,
Yeah.
whether it be like a picture of them behind like a piece of glass and sealed in there, or an actual etching of them on it.
Yeah, I think that and the like bronze headstones.
Yeah. Oh yeah. I totally forgot.
Yeah, I thought that was really cool. Yeah, because it's not something I've ever seen before, and
Mhm.
they're you have these headstones that are centuries old and still in beautiful shape, even though they look like stone, because they're metal and so they don't wear away as easily, and yeah, and they're cool. They're really cool. I really liked
Oh,
them a lot.
I don't recall seeing a witch.
No, I think we
Um,
found her grave, but or the alleged
uh,
grave.
I think so. Yeah. The final three, the last three on our tour, this finally cemetery, Nunica and McDowell, they all had a unique stone that I think we found, or a unique grave that we kind of looked for. That I think we did find them. I didn't see a witch. Possibly found the stone for the alleged witch. I think they said like that was actually a person who died of.
Like tuberculosis or
I
something.
think so. Yeah, and
Yeah.
then I didn't feel like tapping on my shoulder.
No,
I
me
did.
neither.
I did feel like when I was in like the back corner, like it was like the part that was like kind of darkened out and covered by trees and everything. It felt like somebody was watching me, and I wasn't quite sure if it was from one of the
Ooh.
neighboring houses
Yeah.
because I mean, like all it was just like it was just kind of a fence and woods and stuff. Like there wasn't anything. So it's like I don't know if somebody was like gonna put. It just felt weird. Like some of these cemeteries, at least for me and my experiences of spirits and ghosts and stuff like that.
Hmm.
Like, I just always kind of have that weird feeling. So I think it's just maybe more of a psychological thing than anything. But I don't know. I know I didn't get tapped on the shoulder. That I
Yeah.
don't. I do know. But Nunica Cemetery. Uh, this is the one driving to it that some idiot drove on the shoulder and caused me to miss it. So screw you, dude.
Oh, that's right. Oh, I was
Yeah.
so dumb.
This one is in Nunica, Michigan. It was established in 1883. There's 1,600 interments there. One gravestone is made entirely of wood. We did find that. We are able to take
Yeah,
a
that was
photo
neat.
of it. Yep, and that picture is at the back end of the vlog if you wanted to see which one we're exactly talking about. But that was cool because it wasn't just a wooden tombstone next to an updated tombstone. It was just a wooden tombstone that was marking the grave.
Yeah, I was definitely expecting like a cross or
Mhm.
something, you know, something normal, I guess, for lack of a better word. But
Yeah. So the only name on it is Emily. Appears the date is from 1817 to 1896. There were many Civil War veterans who are buried there. One of the more unique things I noticed was there was a pathway that went down to kind of a sitting area within the cemetery,
hmm
and like off to the side. So I mean, obviously, again, a lot of these cemeteries, especially these big ones, people go jogging in, walking in, actually spending time in as if they are parks, and obviously sitting areas that were presented there as well.
yeah, it felt
Um,
like an outdoor chapel almost, but like not with enough seating.
Yeah. And if you find why this one looks a little bit more unique than the other ones, it's because cartoon Freak Joe stuck his head through my sunroof.
Oh, that's right. I forgot
Yeah,
about that.
he went 360 view on it and everything, so it was unique.
Yeah.
Um, Notable interments with H.E. Plant, Civil War Medal of Honor recipient, and Joe Bond, a Civil War veteran. And apparently he was really flirty with females who come near his grave. So he didn't hit on me. So
Yeah. So we need a pretty girl to join our group.
yeah. Yeah, I think that probably help us get a lot more views if we had an
Yeah, it
attractive
probably would. Probably would.
love. Yeah, I'm sure we can find somebody. Yeah, I'm sure somebody's be interested in this.
Hey,
Uh,
feel free to bleep this, but what's Giggle's sister doing?
oh. The final cemetery, the one that we got, the final release videos of McDowell Cemetery. That's in South Haven, Michigan, established in 1885. Formerly Hawkhead Cemetery. Cemetery is rumored to be home to Al Capone's mistress, Flora, which we did find it was actually right at the entrance of the cemetery off to the left.
Yeah, that was wild.
Indeed, there is no gravestone at the cemetery that simply says. Indeed, there is a gravestone at the cemetery that simply says Flora, with no last name and no date on it. It's rumored that she pays a visit to ghost seekers throughout the night. But first, you will see a dull red light or ghost lights. Again, we don't go at night. Maybe in the future, that's something we can look into if we get to a certain level of.
It'd be interesting to redo all of these at night.
It would be cool to do. Yeah, I think some of them. Obviously, there's a lot in Illinois I would love to do, like Oxtable Cemetery, Bachelor's Grove, even Resurrection Cemetery. But yeah, I mean, like a cemetery like this, or like some of the other smaller ones that are overgrown, not well maintained, that have those almost like, as much as I hate to say it, demonic stories. That those would be unique to do. I like this one just because it was a little more calmer. I think a word that we used a lot in our vlogs for this one was calm, serene. I think was one word used quite often, and that's what it was. I mean, like there are some times where like there's a nervousness going in certain cemeteries, and I don't know if it's because like wow we're about to shoot footage of people's final burial places or not, but you know what? It was a different feel when it was going to Michigan.
These were, I think, maybe they might be among the most peaceful cemeteries we've ever been to.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. Even the Gannad Cemetery, which when I rode into it, when we drove into it, I'm like, this one's gonna put off like Moon Creek Cemetery waves and stuff. But honestly, like they weren't. Like they were even like when I was even the one cemetery where I felt like we were being watched, you know, it's just like even then there was a calmness to it. Like
it wasn't like a malicious watching feeling.
No. Like, again, like I think the only time I ever did that, like I know there was a Moon Creek Cemetery in Illinois. Indiana, I know I felt that way about the one that was in the Forest Preserve all the way, like at the end where the whatever the murder that happened in that Forest Preserve. There was an uneasiness in that one, but no, Michigan, a lot of serene. I guess I guess is what they mean by pure Michigan.
Maybe.
Right. There you go, Michigan. Plug you. Guys, make sure you check out these cemeteries. Give us your opinion of the cemeteries. You know, like if you've been there, share your stories. We love when people do that. And yes, I want to know, like, you know, like did anyone's car do what they did? You know, and like just share those stories with us and everything. You share those on our YouTube channel, Freakin Studios. You can subscribe over there. You can listen to you can watch our podcast over there or watch the cemetery vlogs or any other video that Joe and I have put out over the years. If you want to continue just to listen to the shows, you can do so wherever you listen to podcasts. And you can follow us on social media, Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter just by searching This Freakin Show. Speaking of sharing stories or sharing tales, we are wrapping up the final episode of This Freaky Show with the Freak Show reading one of our favorites and kind of a mainstay here at Freaky Show. So, guys, that's all I have. I am Travisy. This is the Freak Show. Stick around and enjoy the final freaky tale.
True. Nervous. Very, very dreadfully nervous. I had been and am. But why? Why will you say that I am mad? The disease had sharpened my senses, not destroyed, not dulled them. Above all was the sense of hearing acute. I heard all things in the heaven and on the earth. I heard many things in hell. How then am I mad? Hearken and observe how healthily, how calmly I can tell you the whole story. It is impossible to say how first the idea entered my brain, but once conceived, it haunted me day and night. Object there was none, passion there was none. I loved the old man. He had never wronged me, he had never given me insult. For his gold I had no desire. I think it was his eye. Yes, it was this. He had the very eye of a vulture, a pale blue eye with a film over it. Whenever it fell upon me, my blood ran cold, and so by degrees, very gradually, I made up my mind to take the life of the old man and thus rid myself of the eye forever. Now, this is the point. You fancy me mad. Madmen know nothing, but you should have seen me. You should have seen how wisely I proceeded, with what caution, with what foresight, with what dissimulation I went to work. I was never kinder to the old man than during the whole week before I killed him. And every night, about midnight, I turned the latch of his door and opened it, oh, so gently. And then, when I had made an opening sufficient for my head, I put in a dark lantern, all closed, so that no light shone out. And then I thrust in my head. Oh, you would have laughed to see how cunningly I thrust it in. I moved it slowly, very, very slowly, so that I might not disturb the old man's sleep. It took me an hour to place my whole head within the opening, so far that I could see him as he lay upon his bed. Would a madman have been so wise as this? And then, when my head was well in the room, I undid the lantern cautiously, oh, so cautiously, for the hinges creaked. I undid it just so much that a single thin ray fell upon the vulture eye. And this I did for 7 long nights, every night, just at midnight. But I found the eye always closed, and so it was impossible to do the work, for it was not the old man who vexed me, but his evil eye. And every morning, when the day broke, I went boldly into the chamber and spoke courageously to him, calling him by name in a hearty tone and inquiring how he has passed the night. So you see, he would have been a very profound old man indeed to suspect that every night, just at 12, I looked in upon him while he slept. Upon the 8th night, I was more than usually cautious in opening the door. A watch's minute hand moves more quickly than did mine. Never before that night had I felt the extent of my own powers, of my sagacity. I could scarcely contain my feelings of triumph to think that there I was, opening the door little by little, and he not even to dream of my secret deeds or thoughts. I fairly chuckled at the idea. And perhaps he heard me, for he moved on the bed suddenly as if startled. Now you may think that I drew back, but no. His room was as black as pitch with the thick darkness, for the shutters were close fastened through fear of robbers. And so I knew that he could not see the opening of the door, and I kept pushing it on steadily. I had my head in, and was about to open the lantern when my thumb slipped upon the tin fastening, and the old man sprang up in bed, crying out, "Who's there?" I kept quite still, and said nothing. For a whole hour I did not move a muscle, and in the meantime I did not hear him lie down. He was still sitting up in the bed, listening, just as I have done night after night, hearkening to the death watches in the wall. Presently, I heard a slight groan, and I knew it was the groan of mortal terror. It was not a groan of pain or of grief. Oh, no! It was the low, stifled sound that arises from the bottom of the soul when overcharged with awe. I knew the sound well. Many a night, just at midnight, when all the world slept, it has welled up from my own bosom, deepening with its dreadful echo the terrors that distracted me. I say I knew it well. I knew that the old man felt and pitied him, although I chuckled at heart. I knew that he had been lying awake ever since the first slight noise, when he had turned in the bed. His fears had been ever since growing upon him. He had been trying to fancy them causeless, but could not. He had been saying to himself, "It is nothing but the wind in the chimney. It is only a mouse crossing the floor." Or, "It is merely a cricket which has made a single chirp." Yes, he had been trying to comfort himself with these suppositions, but he had found all in vain. All in vain, because death, in approaching him, had stalked with its black shadow before him and enveloped the victim. and it was the mournful influence of the unperceived shadow that caused him to feel, although he neither saw nor heard, to feel the presence of my head within the room. When I had waited a long time, very patiently, without hearing him lie down, I resolved to open a little, a very, very little crevice in the lantern. So I opened it. You cannot imagine how stealthily, until at length a simple dim ray like the thread of the spider shot out from the crevice and fell full upon the vulture eye. It was open, wide open, and I grew furious as I gazed upon it. I saw it with perfect distinctness, all a dull blue with a hideous veil over it that chilled the very marrow in my bones. But I could see nothing else of the old man's face or person, for I had directed the ray as if by instinct, precisely upon the damned spot. And have I not told you that what you mistake for madness is but over-acuteness of the sense? Now I say there came to my ears a low, dull, quick sound, such as a watch makes when enveloped in cotton. I knew that sound well, too. It was the beating of the old man's heart. It increased my fury, as the beating of a drum stimulates the soldier into courage. But even yet, I refrained and kept still. I scarcely breathed. I held the lantern motionless. I tried how steadily I could maintain the ray upon the eye. Meantime, the hellish tattoo of the heart increased. It grew quicker and louder every instant. The old man's terror must have been extreme. It grew louder. I say louder every moment. Do you mark me well? I have told you that I am nervous, so I am. And now, at the dead hour of the night, amid the dreadful silence of that old house, so strange a noise as this excited me to uncontrollable terror. Yet for minutes longer I refrained and stood still. But the beating grew louder. I thought the heart must burst, and now a new anxiety seized me. The sound would be heard by a neighbor. The old man's hour had come. With a loud yell, I threw open the lantern and leaped into the room. He shrieked once only. In an instant, I dragged him to the floor and pulled the heavy bed over him. I then smiled gaily to find the deed so far done. But for many minutes, the heart beat on with a muffled sound. This, however, did not vex me. It would not be heard through the wall. And at length, it ceased. The old man was dead. I removed the bed and examined the corpse. Yes, he was stone dead. I placed my hand upon the heart and held it there many minutes. There was no pulsation. He was stone dead. His eye would trouble me no more. If you still think me mad, you will no longer think so when I describe the wise precautions I took for the concealment of the body. The night waned, and I worked hastily, but in silence. First of all, I dismembered the corpse. I cut off the head and the arms and the legs. I then took up 3 planks from the flooring of the chamber and deposited all between the scantlings. I then replaced the board so cleverly, so cunningly, that no human eye, not even his, could have scarce detected anything wrong. There was nothing to wash out. No stain of any kind, no blood spot whatever. I had been too wary for that. A tub had caught it all. When I had made an end of these labors, it was 4 o'clock, still dark as midnight. As the bell sounded the hour, there came a knocking at the street door. I went down to open it with a light heart, for what had I now to fear? There entered 3 men who introduced themselves with perfect suavity as officers of the police. A shriek had been heard by the neighbor during the night. Suspicion of foul play had been aroused. Information had been lodged at the police office, and they, the officers, had been deputed to search the premises. I smiled. For what had I to fear? I bade the gentleman welcome. The shriek, I said, was my own in a dream. The old man I mentioned was absent in the country. I took my visitors all over the house. I bade them search well. I led them at length to his chamber. I showed them his treasures, secure, undisturbed. In the enthusiasm of my confidence, I brought chairs into the room and desired them here to rest from their fatigues, while I myself, in the wild audacity of my perfect triumph, placed my own seat upon the very spot beneath which reposed the corpse of the victim. The officers were satisfied. My manner had convinced them. I was singularly at ease. They sat, and while I answered cheerily, they chatted of familiar things, but ere long I felt myself getting pale and wished them gone. My head ached, and I fancied a ringing in my ears. But still they sat and chatted. The ringing became more distinct. It continued and became more distinct. I talked more freely to get rid of the feeling, but it continued and gained definiteness, until at length I found that the noise was not within my ears. No doubt I now grew very pale. When I talked more fluently and with a heightened voice, yet the sound increased, and what could I do? It was a low, dull, quick sound, much a sound as a watch makes when enveloped in cotton. I gasped for breath, and yet the officers heard it not. I talked more quickly, more vehemently, but the noise increased. I arose and argued about trifles in a high key with violent gesticulations, but the noise steadily increased. Why would they not be gone? I paced the floor to and fro with heavy sighs, as if excited to fury by the observations of the men, but the noise steadily increased. I foamed. I swore, I swung the chair upon which I had been sitting and grated it upon the boards, but the noise arose over all and continually increased. It grew louder. And still the men chatted pleasantly and smiled. Was it possible they heard it not? Almighty God! No, no. They heard. They suspected. They knew they were making a mockery of my horror. This I thought, and this I think. But anything was better than this agony. Anything was more tolerable than this derision. I could bear those hypocritical smiles no longer. I felt I must scream or die. And now again, hark! Louder, louder, louder! I shrieked. Dissemble no more. I admit the deed. Tear up the planks. Here, here. It is the beating of his heart. The end.